Moonshiners' family mourns yet another heartbreaking loss weeks after Kenny Law's death. The rhythm of the Appalachian Hills is not just defined by the rush of the streams or the sway of the old oak trees that dot the landscape. It's defined by the quiet hum of life, lived in rhythm with the land, and a shared history that often includes whispered secrets and stories told beneath the cover of night. These hills hold the weight of generations, of families bound together by blood, hardship, and tradition. For the Laws family, one of the most storied names in the moonshining business, those hills have carried both joy and deep sorrow. Just weeks ago, the tight-knit Moonshiner clan faced the heartbreaking loss of Kenny Laws, the patriarch who had built their legacy from the ground up. Kenny was a man whose life was deeply intertwined with the art of distilling, a craft passed down through generations. His untimely passing left a hole in the heart of the family, but little did they know that another heart-wrenching loss would soon follow, plunging them deeper into mourning. It was on a gray morning in early February when the news spread like wildfire through the nearby hollows. Bonnie Laws, Kenny's sister, was found in her home, the victim of an apparent accidental overdose. Bonnie, who had always been a pillar of strength for her family, was a quiet soul who had spent most of her years working alongside Kenny in their distillery. But her quiet demeanor masked a life of inner struggles, and in the years leading up to her death, those struggles had worsened. The Laws family had always been fiercely protective of their own, but as the years went by, the pressures of the moonshining business and the weight of their family's history began to take its toll. With Kenny gone, Bonnie had lost the one person who understood her the most, leaving her vulnerable in ways that no one had anticipated. Though she was loved deeply by her family, the churning sense of loss that had taken root after Kenny's death was too much for her to bear. A life of tradition to understand the depth of the Laws family's grief, one must first understand their history. The Laws family had been distilling moonshine for generations. Their land, nestled in the rolling hills of Appalachia, was rich with the natural ingredients needed for crafting the finest whiskey in the region. Kenny had taken the business to new heights, turning their small, family-run operation into one of the most respected names in the business. But it wasn't just about the moonshine. It was about family. It was about loyalty. And it was about survival. Kenny had always been the glue that held the family together. He was known as a quiet, reserved man, but he had a strength that could not be matched. He worked the stills day and night, ensuring that their product remained top quality. He never let the allure of money or fame get in the way of the traditions he held dear. Those traditions were the bedrock of the Laws family. Every person in the family, from the youngest child to the oldest grandparent, had a role in the distillery. The moonshine wasn't just a product, it was a way of life, a symbol of resilience passed down from one generation to the next. Bonnie, too, had a deep connection to the family's distilling roots. She had worked alongside her brother Kenny since they were children, learning the craft and helping to keep the business alive during some of its darkest days. She had never been as outgoing or as public as Kenny, preferring to stay behind the scenes, but her role was no less significant. She was the one who managed the family's finances, kept track of inventory, and ensured that every bottle of their whiskey was made with the utmost care. In a way, Bonnie had always been the unsung hero of the Laws family. Her quiet strength and dedication had been the backbone of their success. But even the strongest people have their breaking points, and Bonnie's came after Kenny's death. The weight of loss, the grief that settled over the family after Kenny's passing was palpable. For weeks, the family tried to carry on as usual, keeping the distillery running and honoring their patriarch's legacy. But as time went on, it became clear that the heartache was too much for some members of the family to bear. Bonnie, in particular, seemed to struggle the most. Her sorrow was something that the family didn't quite know how to handle. They had always been a family that handled problems head-on, but Bonnie's grief was not something that could be fixed with a conversation or a kind word. It was deep, complicated, and, as it turned out, dangerous. Despite the Laws family's reputation for toughness, there was little anyone could do when it came to Bonnie. Her years of inner turmoil had finally caught up with her, and the weight of the loss of her brother was simply too much. In the days leading up to her death, Bonnie had become increasingly withdrawn. She stopped coming to her home in the woods. Her death was a blow that none of the Laws family had seen coming. While they had prepared themselves for the possibility of losing Kenny, they never imagined that Bonnie's death would come so soon. The news hit the family like a freight train, leaving them reeling from the shock. The loss of Bonnie was a reminder that, even in the toughest of families, grief has a way of taking its toll. A family's struggle to heal in the aftermath of Bonnie's death, the Laws family found themselves once again at a crossroads. They had already lost the heart of their operation when Kenny passed away, but now they had lost Bonnie too. The distillery, once a thriving operation, now felt like an empty shell. The laughter that had once echoed through the hallways of their home was now replaced by a silence that was both deafening and oppressive. But even in the darkest moments, the Laws family's strength and resilience began to shine through. They knew that Kenny and Bonnie would never want them to give up, to let the family legacy die with them. Slowly but surely, the family began to pick up the pieces, finding ways to honor the memory of those they had lost while keeping the distillery running. It wasn't easy. It never would be. But the Laws family had always known how to survive. They had survived Prohibition, the changing tides of the moonshining world, and countless other obstacles, and they would survive this too. Legacy lives on as the weeks passed, the Laws family began to find solace in the memories of Kenny and Bonnie. They shared stories of their childhoods, of the days spent working together in the hills, of the laughter and camaraderie that had defined their lives. It was in these moments that the family found their strength, in the shared recollection of the love that had bound them all together. Distillery, once again, became a symbol of endurance. The Laws family knew that it wasn't just about the product they were making. It was about the people they had lost and the legacy they had built. And though the future was uncertain, they knew one thing for sure: the Laws' name would not be forgotten. As they stood together on the porch of the old distillery, looking out over the hills that had shaped their lives, the Laws family understood that their journey was far from over. They had faced unimaginable pain, but they had also discovered a new sense of unity. Through the death of Kenny and Bonnie, they had found a renewed purpose, a determination to keep moving forward, honoring the legacy of those who had come before them. For the Laws family, the road ahead may have been uncertain, but as long as they had each other and the hills that had shaped their lives, they knew they would endure. They would carry the weight of their losses, and in doing so, they would ensure that the spirit of Kenny and Bonnie Laws would live on for generations to come. Moonshiners family mourns yet another heartbreaking loss weeks after Kenny Laws' death. The world of Appalachian moonshining, once marked by a tightly knit community, bound by generations of tradition, has been rocked by yet another tragedy. Weeks after the untimely death of Kenny Laws, the Moonshiner family is once again plunged into mourning. With deep sorrow, they face the reality of another loss, a reminder of how fragile life can be, especially when navigating the high-stakes world of untold stories, hidden hills, and the relentless pursuit of freedom that the moonshining way of life embodies. A family united by tradition, the Laws family, known for their long-standing involvement in the Appalachian moonshining business, has experienced more than its fair share of ups and downs over the years. From the backwoods stills of the Smoky Mountains to the clandestine roads winding through the hills, the family has always been at the heart of a community that depends on skill, secrecy, and a profound respect for the craft. The death of Kenny Laws, the most recent patriarch of the family, shocked the entire region. Kenny had always been a steadfast figure, embodying the grit and resilience that Moonshiners had to possess in order to survive. His reputation stretched far beyond his personal boundaries, having built both an underground empire of distilled spirits and a network of loyal friends, customers, and fellow Moonshiners. In death, his memory is etched into the history of Appalachian moonshining. Yet, as the family tried to piece together their lives after Kenny's passing, another shadow fell upon them. The news that Kenny's older brother, Earl Laws, had also passed away sent a wave of grief through their tight-knit group. Earl was not only Kenny's older sibling, but also a guiding force in the moonshining business for decades. His death was unexpected and took the family by surprise, adding layers to the already complicated emotions they were grappling with.